It looks like we've got a number of people jumping on board, so great to have you all on. Good to see you there. As always, please feel free to use your question and answers or your chat if you've got anything you want to say. As I mentioned, I got some feedback around wanting these sessions to be more inspirational, just needing them as a bit of a pick-me-up for the day, which is what they were originally designed and intended for. So very much wanting to focus on what people need and what people want. And today what we're going to be focusing on as we go through is looking at a couple of key areas. Now, I wanted to start off with a little story. Many of you might know, I think it's Greek mythology, where a woman called Pandora is given a box and she's told, don't open this box. Whatever you do, do not open the box. And of course, like most human beings, anytime you're told not to do something, there's this overwhelming desire to know, well, why not? And as it happens, she lands up opening the box. And the story, I just find a very good correlation to the time that we're in at the moment. And you know, there's a lot of talk around the origin of the virus, where it came from, all the illegal trade in animals and all the rest of it. But the reality is that what it's released for many people are a lot of scary emotions. The events that have unfurled have spread around the world. You know, whole countries are locking down. And with this release of all this, if you like, these bad things that are happening, people are acting out of a place of fear. You know, we've seen incidences where people are destroying 5G towers because they believe that that's correlated to the virus. I was speaking to my dad over the weekend, and he was saying that in South Africa, they're burning schools because there's been a link between schools and the virus. And people are acting out of this place of fear. And we're seeing it in all sorts of ways. Some people are raising conspiracy theories. Some people are beginning to do all the isms, you know, racism and all those sorts of things, acting out of these terrible negative emotions that occur when people are under stress and pressure. And the key thing is this: in the story of Pandora's Box, once they were released, they couldn't get put back in again. And Pandora slams the door shut. And she gets told to open it up again because there's one thing left that can overcome and defeat all of the negativity that she's just released. And so with a lot of trepidation, she opens up the box. And of course, what she releases is hope. And the purpose of what we're doing here, the purpose of these little morning sessions, is to give people hope, is to give people encouragement, is to give people a vision within themselves for the future. Hope is one of the most incredible, powerful emotions that people can have. And I wanted to focus on that today, on the forward focus that you might have for your life. And so I've gone and put in 2 activities for today, or some of you might be for this week. And I'd like to start off with something really simple. I say simple, it actually does take quite a lot of effort if you're going to do it well, but that is to dream. Actually dream of a better future. When we have hope for a better future, it allows us to get through the trials of today. When we're going through tough times today, if we know that it's going to be worth it, then we're far more likely to put in the effort that's required. And a couple of key things in this whole idea of dreaming: when we dream that tomorrow can be better, when we hope that tomorrow can be better, when we begin to convince ourselves it can be better, we'll have the energy to get through today. And the key thing is, the more we think about it, the more we believe it, the more conviction we will have. And then we'll start to focus on it. Remember what I said beforehand, that your energy goes where your focus goes. Okay? So we want to make sure that we've got something that we're looking to, something positive, something encouraging, something forward thinking. So dare to dream. And one of the most powerful ways of doing this is to have faith in something that's going to be better and bigger. One of my favorite verses comes out of the Bible. It says, now faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance around what we do not see. And that is an incredibly powerful motivating force. Now, I wanted to cover off, how can you actually do this? How can you create it for yourself in this moment when we're going through the 3rd week of lockdown? And for many people, cabin fever has well and truly set in, and we still don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to come out of lockdown? Are we going to come out of lockdown? There's all this uncertainty that's happening. And what I encourage you to do is to take some time and dream. And a great way to do this in a practical sense is to create a vision board. It's sometimes called a dream board. It's about your dream, your ideal tomorrow. What does a better future look like? Now, one of the best ways to do this is to go and get some magazines, some pictures, and literally start to create them. Go and put down and go, what do I dream about for myself? So I went onto the web and looked at some people's vision boards. Now, some of them are just people getting pictures and filling a whole board. Other people go and, obviously a bit more visually inclined, and so they go and do it all really nicely. Some people have gone and just put stuff together with inspirational words in it. Places that you want to go, people you want to be with, the future that you share together. Once again, people crafting it, looking really good. It doesn't actually matter how you do a vision board. But what it does matter is that you do something that articulates a better future for you. For those of you who the vision board resonates and you actually wouldn't mind trying something like that, a couple of tips for you. Dream. Allow yourself to dream. Don't ask, well, how am I going to do that? Just ask, what would I like to do? What is it that I would like to do? Be specific in your goals. I know that one of the first things I put on my vision board many years ago was doing a ballooning safari over the Serengeti Gorge. Now, I haven't done that yet, but I still want to do that. Like I said, use pictures from magazines, Instagram, your own photos, if needs be. You'll be quite amazed how pictures say 1,000 words. And enjoy the process. Allow yourself to get soaked into the possibilities that the future holds. Make it as personal as possible. And make the collage so it speaks to you. If you're neat and tidy, then make it neat and tidy. If you just want to stick stuff on there, just stick stuff on there, okay? Really encourage you to add words that resonate with how you want to feel while you're going through this. And put your board up somewhere where you can see it every day. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. In his epic book, Think and Grow Rich. He also said this, everyone comes to the earth plane blessed with the privilege of controlling his mind power and directing it to whatever ends he may choose. And it leads quite nicely into our next activity, which I've started and I'm going to put into a story. Any of you happen to have read the book Jack London or anything like that? Back at the turn of the last century, particularly up north, and there was a lot of people used to do dog fights, and you'd go and bet on the dog fighting. And I remember many years ago hearing the story told by a boy when he was, well, told by a man, but relating to when he was a boy, very young, going to the dog fights with his dad. And his dad used to his grandfather, should I say, used to manage the dog fights. And his grandfather always knew which dog was going to win. And he would watch and study the dog fights to see if he could work out how his grandfather did it, how his grandfather always knew which dog was going to win. And what he landed up finding is that he couldn't work it out. And so he said to his grandpa, he said, Grandpa, how come you always know which dog's going to win? And he said, my boy, that's really easy. Whichever dog I feed. And for me, it's the same thing with our thoughts. We often talk about having two voices in our heads. And which ones are you feeding the most? We feed the voices in our heads by giving them attention, by giving them time in terms of looking at and focusing on whichever one, whether it's the negative things or whether it's the positive, hopeful things. What can we do? Focusing where we can control, where we can do something different. So which of those are you feeding in your head? Now, I want to be very realistic here. I'm not for 1 second saying that we need to say, well, there's no such thing as fear. Some people are very legitimately concerned about the future. And I saw this lovely expression came out of Luke Skywalker and speaking to Rey. And in speaking to Rey, what he said was this. He said, confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi, your destiny. Now, any of you who happen to be Star Wars fans will know that fear has played a key role throughout the whole Star Wars saga. And in fact, Luke once said to Yoda, I'm not afraid. And Yoda's reply, his response is absolutely brilliant. He said, you will be. And I think many of us can relate to that at the moment. We're looking at a future and it is so uncertain. If you're not yet afraid, for some of you, you're going to be. it's one of those things that's coming up. Will you have your job? Will you be able to cover your mortgage? Will will the industry that you're in going to survive this current time? In acknowledging that those are there, please do understand this, that the reality that it is there doesn't mean that you have to be feeding it. And confronting fear is a necessity. If you want to move outside of your current comfort zone and grow within yourself, it's not just the destiny of a Jedi, but also your destiny. And this current circumstance is pushing many of us outside of our comfort zones. What we need to be able to do is acknowledge that that exists. There is that voice there, but which one are you going to choose to listen to? Which one are you going to choose to feed in terms of your focus, your energy, your thoughts? What will you read? What will you watch? What will you listen to? If you weigh the two of them up, which one are you putting more food into the dish of? I think I mentioned to you a number of times on a number of these little thoughts over coffee, that at the beginning of this whole session, I found that I was spending a lot of time reading news articles and opinion pieces, all promoting the doom and gloom and how bad this was and how fast it was spreading and how terrible it was going to be. And as much as I like to think I've got a strong positive mindset, I couldn't help but get dragged into the whole negativity of it. In fact, it was so bad that on the Monday, I was so convinced that Jacinda was going to announce the fact that she was locking down the country. I found that I just couldn't do anything. I was almost paralyzed waiting for the inevitable bad news. And then, of course, I followed that up by reading more and more bad news. So now that she's done that, what's the ripple effect? What's the impact? And I was focusing on things outside of my control, and I was feeding the wrong voice in my head. And it was only when I stopped and went, well, what can I do? And started to focus on going on webinars where it said, well, this is what you can do. These are some actions you can take. In fact, this very Thoughts Over Coffee came out of one of those webinars. Patrick Lencioni and talked about what can you do to make a difference? What can you do to add value? And so this came out of that. We suddenly started to focus on what we can control. And my real encouragement for you today is to dream, to allow yourself to dream, to allow yourself to think of a better future than where you might find yourself at the moment. And in doing that, what you will find is that it will feed the right focus and the right energy direction for you today and for this week. Now, does anybody have any questions or answers at this point? Anything that's come up, anything that's resonated with you that you want to explore in a little bit more depth? Anything I've said where you're going, well, how does that apply to that? So anything that anybody's got, any comments anybody wants to make that it did resonate, or you wanted to just explore or expand on something or add to something that I've gone and said? So nothing through at the moment. Okay. Fabulous. Well, we're tracking well on time, so I'll keep going. With that then said, what I would like to encourage you to do is, we have got somebody come through with something. Yes, always believe that something is great is about to happen. I love that. Thank you, Chantal. It changes your perspective. I was very blessed when I've looked back around what's given me my strength of mindset and why do I have a positivity around it. The one thing that keeps sticking in my mind is my mum always used to say to me, there's always a silver lining. You just have to look for the silver lining. And I remember once my brother and I were sitting in the car, tasked to look after a handbag. And we were born in Zimbabwe. And we were watching my mum walk across the street and somebody had leaned in through the window and stolen her handbag. And we were both so, we're upset and we thought we were going to be in trouble. And my mum was like, well, it's really bad, but there must be a silver lining around it. And she then sat there trying to work out what that would be. And for me, that's really stuck in my mind around when you focus on it and when you look for it, it really does make a difference. And having a forward vision helps you to look for a path you may not have seen before. Totally agree with that, Kerry. And for me, one of the big things with that is that whole concept around what Napoleon Hill said is that the mind, once you can conceive that there can be a better future, your mind will then work out how to do it. Your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful in that way. And I'm going to explore that a little bit further. There's an excellent Andrew Carnegie inspired, in fact, he actually commissioned Napoleon Hill to write Think and Grow Rich. And I'm going to take a section from that tomorrow, which I have found incredibly life-changing for myself. So we have been asked, how else can we help with people? So just how are we currently helping people? We've got these Thoughts Over Coffee, which we're running every working day. We've got our Learning Bites, which I mentioned. It's a 3-minute video clip that comes out every Friday. And we've got daily inspirational postings, which we've been doing for a number of years now. It's a picture with some thoughts, some very brief thoughts. We try and keep things really short because we know attention spans are short. And we post those both on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And if you want to join our company page or follow that, please do so. We have a number of blogs, and as we also talk about, there's resources on our website. And we're looking to do further free training. And the other area we focus on other than teams is around sales. And so we'll be looking to put forward something in that space as well. So please do jump onto our website, have a look at our resources. Any questions, email me, mike@thinkrite.co.nz, jump on our website, and we'll look forward to catching up with you guys again tomorrow. And please, as always, do feel free to spread this around. The more people we can help, the better for everybody. So thanks for everybody. Really do appreciate it. Have an absolutely superb day today and look forward to catching up with you again soon.